Hello there, and welcome to this arty corner of mine on YouTube. Lovely to have you join me. I'm going to start with a quick look at some pages in a sketchbook because I've been missing in action for a few days. I want to show you some papers that I've coloured, and I've got a question for you about those. And then, fingers crossed, I'll do some drawing. Okay, so my sketchbook here. Oh, thank you as well for all the subscribes, likes, and lovely comments. Excuse me, I'm going to try to do my best to get the comments answered either today or tomorrow. I'm not promising anything because everything's all topsy-turvy yet again with me, but I'll tell you more about that when I'm drawing, no doubt. So, I think you've seen this page with all these lovely bits and bobs on. I definitely love that one. I love them. I love lots of them. Some of them I'm going, yes, one time I thought of really like those, but now I'm not so sure. But it's all part of growth and progress. So these are some sketches of seeds and weird things, imaginative from looking at things as well. So seed pods, that could be a seed pod, it could be a bulb, it could be a strange petal, either one that's connected to the centre of the flower here or the other end. You do get some that have thin ends, thin parts that connect them to the centre of the flower. And perhaps not quite that shape. All kinds of things here. Some again from my imagination, others it was Ernst Haeckel inspired. A lot of this is. So looking at things from there and going, okay, let's have a look. And some flowers. And I think I may do some of these flowers with you and maybe some of the leaves. Because these are laburnum flowers. Last Friday, I had a day out with my older sister and we went to Dufferin Gardens again. We went there about 2 weeks before and it was lovely. It was a very hot sunny day. I got sunburnt on my shoulders and back and front of my chest. Rosacea flared up and I was I think I overdid the sun and I think I overdid the people in that week because I was exhausted for a few days, which is why I've not been here amongst other things. But I was really absolutely worn out. There's no other way I can say it. Could barely keep my eyes open. I had a normal amount of sleep last night instead of I've been sleeping about 12 hours or more a day for a few days, which is always a sign I've done too much peopling and out in the world and so on. It's lovely, but I've really got to find my limit. I really have to. But it was lovely to be with my sister. And of course, my mind was on all kinds of things when I was drawing this, and we saw the most amazing gourds. I've never seen gourds growing. Okay, they had a walled garden, and along one section of wall, there were gourds growing up it. There were, of all kinds, gourds and squashes and things, and some of them were just. I've got photographs which are still on my camera because I haven't had enough energy to focus and get them off. So today is the first day since last week I was pretty tired as well, but certainly since Saturday, it's Friday. Oh no, I was shattered on Friday, but I still went out. See, I pushed myself. That's the cause. But it'll be fine. I wasn't sleeping well last week because I think we had hot days and hot nights, so that doesn't help. Anywho, so these are some others. They are observations of things, sort of like these are from plantains, which are a wild plant, and I love their stems because their stems are sort of almost boxy, but instead of they've got corners that stick out and then sides that go in, but they're not four parts, they're more than that. There's something nice about them, and they have these little stamen that can sometimes go in a halo around them, which is quite fun. Thistles, lovely leaves, different kinds of leaves. Yes, I've been spotting leaves. And then here, I drew some more thistles. And some of these are quite imaginary as well. I'm quite tempted to do those. These are definitely imaginary. They're definitely imaginary, but using ideas from other things, letting them flow out. So I'm going to keep that open near me for some inspiration. Okay, so these are papers. Let me just autofocus, because I know when somebody's autofocus goes in and out when I'm watching something, it just irritates me a tad. And I know I drift off the screen, which irritates you a tad, and don't zoom in or don't get my hand out the way. I try my best. I really, really do. But it's hard when I get caught up in the flow of either drawing or telling a story, or sometimes I just haven't got that focus to be able to do more than one thing at a time. Again, I may mention more about that later on. But yesterday I wanted to do some creative things. So I thought, right, I'm going to colour some paper. I'm going to add colour to paper, some outlines. These will go in my disc-bound sketchbook, no doubt. And I took some A3 eco paper from, what's the name of the company? Artwyrd Enviro. And this is recycled paper made from recycled coffee cups. And it is sort of like it's suitable for mixed media. And trust me, these have had tons of water on them and layers of distress ink. I've used a mixture of distress inks and distress oxides. I used a jelly plate as well, which is why you might see some weird lines and things like that, because I've got jelly plates. I haven't used them for ages. So I thought, let's have a go. They do work better with distress oxides than distress inks, but I don't mind either way. And it may just be because I've only got the little cubes and I was using a big jelly plate, or biggish one, A4 sized I think it was. So these are mainly distress oxides, and you can see how when you spray water on the oxide it bleaches it. But oh no, it can't be. It's got to be distress ink. No, it's got to have distress oxide on it. I don't know. The other side is very dark. Perfect. Using a white gel pen on. Oh yes. And I love the texture. It's like it reminds me of weathered zinc, or galvanized metal where some rust is coming through, and some there's some of the bluey grey zinc is there, and things like that. You get the water stains and what have you, salty stuff. And fret not, I may draw on them, but I have scanned them in. More about that in a moment. This one too is quite dark. It's greener rather than bluer, but I like the combination of colours and the grungy nature. The other side though, I really like this. I like the lighter areas and darker areas. Goodness knows what I'm going to draw on here. But you can see where I've got some fairly regular shapes from the foam blending tool, but I'm fine with that as well. It's yeah, I didn't use any stencils or stamps. This one again is quite dark in colour, but I like the greens. It was really, really bright green, so I had to dull it down because it was sort of almost fluorescent. And then this side was also very bright green. You can still see it there, but it works with the darker tones. Again, I love this pattern. This is distress oxide for sure. This one is very dusty and powdery looking. And that's all a function of distress oxides. This got very wet. I used too much water. And so all of the dustiness has come to the surface. Now I know if I use microglaze, this distress microglaze on it, it actually gets rid of the dustiness, and it actually brings out all the layers. You can see the layers become translucent. Certainly the top ones do it, or not completely, but sort of translucent. But if I do that, I can't draw on them, because distress glaze is not water soluble, and I'm not going to try anything else. And the back here is just weathered and grungy around the edge. And actually the because these papers were damp when I edged them, there's some of that bloom has come up there, that light of the colour as it's dried. This is one done with distress ink. No, I think it's, I don't know. It's one or the other. I love this. I haven't scanned it in. I haven't edged it, but I am going to scan it in. After I'd done the ones I've just shown you, I just couldn't focus anymore. And I was hungry as well, so I needed to eat. So, and this one, I think this one could do with a bit, perhaps not a bit more colour, but it's interesting. It does look old and weathered and worn. This one I like. These were complete accidents. I think bits of fabric had come off the ink pad and had got stuck on the gel plate and had gone on there. But I really, really like this. In fact, I know exactly what I want to do with this. But it would mean that I've got to scan this in on the other side. A lot of these long, thin ones I used for cleaning a brayer off. A brayer is a soft rubber roller that you use for spreading paint or inks out. I use them on my jelly plate. I also use them on paper. So here, if straight lines are from my brayer is only about that wide. It's only about 2.5, 3 inches wide. I've got another one that's wider, but I quite like the narrow one. And I quite like what happens. And these were drops of water that got sprayed on. Why put water? I don't know. But the patterns that came off it and off, yeah, I love it. I really enjoyed doing this. And you can see the lines in the background here. You get those on the jelly plate as well, because I can't see how much ink is on there. Because with distress inks, you only need a little bit, goes a long way. Yeah, you can see where I'd tapped the ink pads on and hadn't spread the ink out fully. And again, I'm fine with that. This was completely by accident. Don't know where that came from. This one, you can definitely see the brayer strokes again, but I do like that. And that one. They're going to be fun to draw on. This one too. And this. This is very subtle. I like this. I really do like this. I've got no idea how I got this, because there's not enough. This is the thing of working with distress inks and jelly plates and other things. I just don't know how I got it. I suspect I sprayed some water on the gel plate, put this on, and I moved it a little bit and it dragged colours across, or perhaps I used the brayer. I don't know, but I love that. This one, I love the texture on this one. It's all broken up in little bits and pieces, and it is just lovely. And it does look like somebody's just whacked over with a wet brush on something that's not very absorbent, and everything's beaded up, or it's aged and is starting to flake. I love the colours, the browns, the greens. And that's the other side, which is very similar. Just got some lines going the other way. Yeah, I like it. It's going to be interesting as a background. This one is, I don't know what on earth happened here, but I love it. I haven't looked at these since they were damp when I put them away. I love the colours, the soft muted pinks. And this one as well, even though it's got that darker strip, it looks almost like a piece of tape has been there, doesn't it? Something sticky. And again, these funny shapes here. Dark line there. Oh, I know where that came from. I managed to get just the edge of the brayer along there, being clumsy, clumsy-handed. And it created that interesting line there that almost looks like a fold or a tear in the paper. It's not. And the last one, I showed the other side, didn't I yet? So the last page is this one. Lovely again, lots of water drops on here. And these funny greeny colours. And the back, I like that just as it is, with just these bits and pieces of colour here. Right, now I did these, and I'm determined to scan them all in and create digital files of them so they can be printed out. So I won't lose these, so I can use them as backgrounds for my digital art as well, which will be fab, okay? But I am thinking of making the files for them available to download. I do want to set up a Ko-fi account. Ko-fi is spelled K-O-F-I, and it's just an account where I can put things like this where you don't have to pay anything, or perhaps I'll put some things up there that have some money to them. Might put some colouring pages, books up there, things like that people can download and print. There'll obviously be terms and conditions of use applied to them all, or just buy me a coffee. Though I don't drink coffee, I want to call it buy me a tea, or buy me a water drop drink. Because I'm in love with the blueberry water drops. They're absolutely gorgeous. No sugar, really tasty. A little bit of microlights in it, and so on. And that's part of my story for later on. So if you think that would be a good idea, if you don't have access to things like distress inks or so on, or it's not your kind of thing to do, but you'd like paper like this to print out and draw on. Now, if you don't have a printer, be able to find places like, I guess, Staples and other places have photocopiers you can use, even local libraries, I would imagine. Then just let me know in the comments, and I will put a question there, because I enjoy making them. I love drawing on them, but I also dislike drawing on them because I lose this. So if I scan them in, the scans might not look quite like this, because obviously you're seeing this through the camera I'm drawing through, which isn't necessarily the best quality. I mean, it's pretty good. And my scanner tends to do weird things because, you know, scanners, forever wrangling with them. What is it about scanners and printers? But it'll be something that is very, very similar. You'll have the texture. The colours might be slightly different, but they won't be completely different. Though I can alter that. You know, to have this one with all these patterns in slightly different colours would be fun. I need to scan them in first. So today I'm going to use a plain, well, I'd say a plain piece of paper. For goodness sakes, Angela. I've got some I've scanned in. Let's go for one of these. So, which one shall I use? I want one that I can, ooh, that's got really dark on the back and really light on the front. Question is, do I have in here a white gel pen? Oh yes, I do. Right, we're good to go then. And what I'm going to do with this as well is I am going to fold it in half. Oh yeah, I am. I'm going to make like a mini booklet out of it. But I need to know how wide this is, don't I? So, oh, it's 8 1/4. So I need 4 1/8. This is a score tool. It's got lots of grooves in it. And you need a tool like this, or a ball tool, like one of these. And you just find the groove, put your ball tool or your scoring tool in there, and you just drag it along, and it sort of bends the paper down for you so that it's easier then to fold it in half. I use the corner here to butt the paper up into and make sure that I get a nice sharp crease, sharp fold, like so, on both sides, and that the paper then, like the paper lines up. So I've got the dark on the outside or the light on the outside, it doesn't matter for now. That'll be fun. I'm not going to ink down the edge there and there. I'm going to leave them as they are, because I think that might be just a little bit too much. That sounds good, doesn't it? Right, let's pop that away. That has been an invaluable tool for me, because I am really clumsy when it comes to folding and cutting things with paper, with scissors certainly. Knives, I'm always in danger of damaging my fingers myself with them. I'm pretty good actually, to be honest and fair to myself. But so I think here what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw one of these. I think this one would be quite nice to draw. Okay, so let's start with that one. So I'm going to start by using a pencil, and let me see if I can zoom in so we can keep this all in one place. Is it going to zoom in? No, because I pressed the zoom out button. Look at the texture on that. Isn't it gorgeous? Seems a shame to use. Let me have a look. Let's have a look at the other side. Got some texture there. That then would be, I'd have to have that as the inside, wouldn't I? Because I've got all this beautiful texture there. I'd love it to be seen, but then if it's going to be used as a journaling page, we'll work it. So I'm going to stick with it. And then the shape I want is kind of like a wobbly, rounded kind of leaf, I think. And then the stem's going to come down. And I'm going to wobble it down. I'm going to leave some space at the top though. And for this, I'm going to use one of my fountain pens. This is a Parker pen. I found, let me show you. I'll show you this because it's interesting. This, I had one of these pens for many, many years and I loved it. It's a Parker 52. And there was just something about the style and the design. They're no longer made. And mine got stolen along with my Parker Falcon. When I was teaching, I was off ill and I'd left my pencil case in my desk drawer. The pencil case went with my pens. The Falcon was an 18th birthday present. And I still love it. So I thought I'd have a look, and they're no longer made. So I went onto eBay, and the Falcons they had there were a bit more than I wanted to pay, to be honest. And I'll keep looking though, because I'll get a bargain. But that one was just about £20, which is about the original price for it. It's not brand new, it's pre-used, but it works perfectly fine. There's no problem with me using the nib. It writes and draws really nicely. This one though is one I got a sort of like prepaid credit card for 25 years service teaching several years ago, and I spent a large wad of the money on this. I just fell in love with it. I love the sort of like geometric design on it. Sort of like reminds me of circuit boards, but it's not circuit boards. It's that kind of thing. It's the kind of thing, I'm looking at it now, where you see things like this occasionally creeping out in my art. And I love it. And I think I bought that and this one from the same card. So I used a big wad. And this one is just black and white, black and gold. But just very nice. I don't know why. It's not my usual kind of pen, gold, but I just thought I liked that. So I remembered I had them and I found them. And thought, right, we're going to make use of these. And I don't know which of the diamine inks I've got in here, but I think it may be Earl Grey, though I think it's coloured purple because this one had purple ink in it first. So I'm going to start filling this shape up basically with circles. I'm not sure if the Earl Grey ink is pure grey or whether it is a purpley grey. I've not really used it before, but then there could be a completely different colour in here. I did clean them out really well. The ink had been in there for years and dried out. So where I've got spaces where I'd have a really silly little circle, I'm just going to fill them in with some ink. And my ink is feathering a little bit here because this paper has had a lot of water on it, which changes its absorbability. I'm not sure if that's a word. I said it and I thought, is that real? And I want to get some larger ones towards the centre. I haven't covered up all of this texture and we're not going to cover it all up. So I'm trying to use nice big circles where some of that lovely water spot texture will shine through. Okay, so while I'm just doing this, and hopefully you can see what I'm doing, I'll try to keep my hand out of the way, but there's no guarantee I can. Because although I've got this scanned in, I don't want to make a mess of this paper either, because it's the original. So my shingles are much better. I obviously caught them in time with the antiviral. Still getting some pain and occasional itching in the area, but that's to be expected because it can take weeks or even months for the dratted virus to vacate the nerve that it has affected. The antivirals will have given it a bit of a kick, but I'm sure there'll be some viruses that go, nope, we're tougher than that. Happy days. So that's great. I had to speak to a doctor about my ongoing digestion issue, shall we say. And it's definitely not Crohn's or celiac's. There's no sign of inflammation at all. I knew it wasn't celiac because they tested me for that. And nothing else explains it. There's nothing else that it could be caused by that's obvious. And so the best suggestion is that I have IBS. So I've been asked to follow a FODMAP diet, which isn't for losing weight, it's to help your irritable bowel or irritated digestive system. And I'm very irritated about it as well. And basically all foods that have got complex, not easy to digest carbohydrates in are out. They're called high FODMAP foods, which is okay because there's plenty left to eat, even as a vegetarian, and a fussy vegetarian at that. So I'm fine with it. No wheat of any kind except for small amounts of spelt. Oats are okay, sago, tapioca are. I think the killer for me is no onion, no garlic. So it's okay. I can have bananas. I thought initially I couldn't, but the diet sheet I have says I can. So that's good. But asked to limit fruit to no more than 2 portions a day, 2 small portions a day. So there's that. There's all sorts of things. No pulses, no beans and lentils, no peas, no cabbage other than white cabbage. I think red cabbage is mentioned, but I'm not a fan of red. I'd buy it for colour. But most other things I eat are there. Some fruits that are off limit, like blackcurrants and blackberries and some others. Apples as well are off the menu. And I've noticed for quite a long while that I can't eat cooked apples because it causes huge problems with digestion, you know, dashing to the loo and stomach cramps. So pieces are coming together. So I've been looking at this. I did a big shop on Monday evening to get some, you know, plenty of things. I've got stuff arriving tomorrow that I can't get in my local supermarkets. So vegetable stock that is onion and garlic free. I did buy some, but it's minging. It's not like the one I bought. It was a big name one, and it's just it's bland as anything and tastes peculiar. But then perhaps the sort of like stew soup thing I made yesterday, I just put the wrong kinds of things in. You can use chives or the green part of spring onions. They're the only parts of onions you can use. You can use garlic infused oil, which I've got on order, that doesn't have bits of garlic floating in it, because it's the bits that cause the problem. It's where these carbohydrates are. So here is my stem. I'm going to do a jointed stem simply because I can. And it feels almost like it's in keeping with the top. So that's the next challenge for me. Health-wise. So, you know, bit by bit I'll do it. And I rarely eat wheat anyway, because I know that has caused me problems for a long time. Now, in the middle of these, there are plenty of things I can do. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the back of my nib. Turn my pen the other way up because I can get a finer line. I'm going to go through and put little circles in the middle of them. Some of the small ones, it's likely to be a solid circle. It's definitely a purpley greyish hue about this ink. And it's really nice on this paper because it's going dusty or chalky looking with the Distress Oxide that's on here. excuse me. So, sort of like the last, well, November 2023 till today and beyond seems to be the year or so of having to sort my health out. This one just looks a bit odd there, so I'm just going to put a partial one there perhaps. Perhaps another little one just there. That'll be alright. And then with these ones where I've got space, I'm just putting little lines coming out of those little holes. I'm not counting, I'm making some long, some short, just for interest. Now I'm not going to add any colour to this because the background is, I think the background's really lovely. So I will add some shading though, with a graphite pencil. I know, don't faint. Whatever you do, don't get shocked, please. But I think I will in this instance because I don't want to lose this background texture too much. Now in some of the small ones I'm not going to be able to get these little lines in. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Now this FODMAP diet, I don't know why I keep calling it a FODMAP. Who knows? It's meant to be followed quite strictly for 4 to 6 weeks because it's to allow your digestive system, your gut particularly, to calm down and heal from all the irritation it's had that's caused the issues. And after that, you start to reintroduce foods I think it's every 2 to 3 days, just one small amount of, and see how it affects you. They say 2 to 3 days because that's how long it can take food to get from your stomach to the toilet bowl, shall we say. And you'll know pretty quickly if something has irritated you because you'll get the symptoms that you've been experiencing, whatever that is, whether you get stomach cramping, digestive system cramping or whatever. I had some this morning and I can't tell you what it is I've eaten. Terrible on Saturday, Friday night, Saturday, because I'd been out with my sister and I get affected by things very quickly. And for lunch we'd had vegan sausage rolls, which had wheat, which had onion and garlic in. They were absolutely delicious. But my digestive system wasn't fun. I had a cake afterwards, which had wheat in, and some ice cream later on, which was delicious. But I know ice cream is a big no-no for me, but it's so delicious. And yeah, it wasn't long after I got home when there was a loo dash. And you're there going, oh. But it was so nice. And that's the point as well, is that you do as much as you can, but you mustn't deprive yourself of things. There are alternatives. I think they had a sorbet there, so I could have had sorbet. But you can get sort of like wheat-free, lactose-free ice creams and things that are suitable for eating. But I'm just going to leave it. They're usually made from soy milk, and me and soy milk don't get on. Lactose-free milk I've got, and various other things that are free from, to try them out and to see how I get on with them. Luckily, there's plenty of stuff I love that I can eat quite happily. Now here for the leaves, I'm going to have very long, thin ones. So I'm doing a very tall, thin S shape. This one's a backwards one. And here perhaps not quite as long. And coming perhaps from the bottom here, a nice long one as if it's going off the paper. and I don't know what I want to do. I want to put something around it or something in this section here, but what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put like little sparkles made of little dots of ink arranged around an imaginary circle. If they're not perfectly circular, it really doesn't matter, but it's light and airy enough that the underlying colours and patterns will show through. It's always good to have some patterns like this in your collection that you like, because you just never know where just something light and airy will be needed. Now this one, I'm just going to have it going off the edge because we can, and it makes some kind of sense. You can make these things as small or as big as you like. You can have them close together, far apart. You can have them like I've done, which is all pretty much far apart. You can put little circles in between them. I think I might just have perhaps a couple just squeezing past this, just to give some texture over here, and perhaps some just peeking out from the other side, like so. Perhaps one here. I'm doing little lines, and on the very tiniest ones I'm just putting little dots in them. What I'm trying to do is trying to create a straightish edge here, just by sight. I'm not going to make it perfect because there is no need for it to be perfect, but it's close enough, I think. Let's probably get a little one in here. There, like that. Perhaps just one right at the top. It's not very well drawn, but it'll do, like so. So we've got that there. So that is this one. I'm just going to give it a moment to dry as I scratch my back. So yeah, so I'm getting to the bottom of that. So fingers crossed that will end up being sorted. That's my digestive issues. There's nothing else for me to worry about there. It's all been checked out otherwise, which is great, because it's nice to know that all is well with you, that there's nothing untoward. So that's good. Everything else is okay apart from me being exhausted, but it turns out that exhaustion can be caused by perimenopause. It can be caused by IBS and digestive system issues, as well as my low iron, the low B12 I had. I'll get the iron checked now next month, in the middle of next month, to see if that's gone up now with the extra dose of it. If not, that may need to be looked into, but then it may be a function of the IBS that food and stuff's just been going straight through me practically, so it could all be linked. And it's just a matter of working things out and seeing where it all goes. Right, I was talking because I wanted this to dry. I think it's dried. Put my glasses on, I'll be able to see it all a bit better. It has dried. And all I want to do is get rid of my pencil line there. Little erase. And let's have a look now at adding some graphite. I'm going to use a newish tortillon for this one that's got a nice point. So I'm going to put start with the leaves, and I'm going to put shading at the tip and the bottom of each leaf. And I'll just blend the end out just that little bit, just to give a little bit of shade there. I'm using a Pitt Graphite Matt pencil, and I'm using a 4B hardness, which means it's softish. It's not as soft as a 4B would be in terms of an ordinary graphite pencil, but it's, you know, softer than the 2B in the Pitt Graphite Matt. So with the little places in between here, I've put shading at the top, to the left and the bottom of this panel, just to bring some graphite in there. And for the more circular parts, I'm putting it towards the left and the bottom. This one I've just carried the shading on. So hopefully already you can see there's some patterns coming in there. I'm adding some to the left and the bottom of these sections. I may miss some on the way. To the ones on the outside edge, I'm going to add quite a bit more than I am to the ones in the middle. I'm going to ignore that, strictly speaking, because they're overlapping. The top parts should have shadow in them. I'm just going to stick to adding it to the bottom because it's more of a pattern than it is realistic. I could have put tiny little butterflies, couldn't I, floating around this, but I quite like the little bubble bursts, to be honest. They do look like a bubble, you know, like a child's bubble toy that you've blown. It's just burst into a scatter of tiny little droplets, because that's what happens. Put some on the outside of this edge as well, just to add shadow around the sides more than anything, so I'm going to add more there. And let's just have a look at this now. Just move this in, get this worked into the paper a little bit. Well, I've missed graphite. There should be enough on my pencil just to add a touch of it in places. That needs a bit more there and there. A bit there. This needs a bit more there, a bit more there, a bit more there, there. We'll get it. It'll be fine now. So there's my plant, but I do want to do a drop shadow, so I'm going to put graphite to the left of the stem. Okay. The left and the bottom of the leaves, so under the left. This is the left here. There's a bit of a bottom there, left here. And then I'm going to put some all around the left side here. And this is the bottom as well, so I'm just going to put some around there just to be consistent. I don't want to move this too far out, but I want it to appear that we've got this lifting off the paper. This is an illusion that I can't see until I've put it to one side for a while and come back to it, or sometimes if I look at the screen, so hopefully it works. Because I've been up close to it, my brain knows what I've done and I've achieved this, and I just can't see the illusion to begin with. It's only with a break from it I go, oh, that's what it looks like then. So that's really good. That's worked out nicely. I may just put a little bit round the side here just to bring that up. And then we've got these ones to do on this side. Like so. So we've got that going on there. I haven't done anything in the middle here, have I? I think in the middle I'm going to go for a gold pen, I think. Oops, as I throw a pen in the bin. Hopefully I've got a gold glitter pen in here. Of course I have. Just finding it. There we go. I've got one of the dual metallics. There we go. That'll be good. And I've also got an orange one, and I should have I did see silver ones in here. Yeah, so I'll have one of each because they can go in my pencil case, because that's a good thing for them to do. Ooh, now the red, gold or the gold? I think I'll just go with gold. And I'm just going to put some of this in the centre of these. Where there's a central piece I can put some in. Some of them are just little black dots, so perhaps they haven't opened up to reveal the gold within yet. This goes outside the lines, I'm not going to worry overly, because it could be, you know, starting to explode out. Do you know what I've just realised? I've echoed these patterns of little lines around these, haven't I? In the little pattern I've put around them. So guess what? I'm going to dot some little dots of glitter in the middle of these as well. How lovely is that? Perfect for a little writing spot in a journal. I'll try and get ones in the middle of the black dots, because it looks odd without them there. There we go. Some might only have one dot in the middle of them because they're quite small. But there we go. So what do you think? That's worked out quite nice. If I zoom out, you'll be able to see it from a distance. That works, doesn't it? If I move it around, you can see where the sparkle is. I do like a bit of sparkle, it has to be said. So that's rather quite cool. Well, I think it's cool. I think it's worked nicely. And I could put little dots of white gel pen. Here's where the back of my hand gets mucky, because that's what the back of my hand's for. Getting white gel pens to work. Just at the top of these, just a few little white dots, just to bring out some highlights. And just to lighten them up that little bit, give some contrast here, and they'll be fine. If I miss and they go over the lines, I'm not too worried. It is what it is when you're working on such a small area. And what was this? It's about 4.25 inches by 4.25 inches, or 4.25 by, or 4 1/8 by, I don't know. It's a little bit longer, or a little bit shorter. I'm not quite sure how tall it is, but I think that'll do. And let's put some little white dots in the middles of the leaves. I'll have them fading into the grey. And then on the right hand side of these areas. There we go. So the only thing I really need to do is just, I'm going to put my initials on here. And I'll pop them down here. Just like that. Let them dry. And I think that's where I'm going to leave this for today. It's a little bit less than an hour because I showed you lots of things and talked about things. And this needs a chance to dry properly as well before I can open it out and work inside, which is what I was going to do. But I'll carry on. In my next video I'll do something on the darker side, and I'm going to use white gel pen or possibly white ink if I've got a really opaque white ink. I'll see, and just see what happens. But this would be really nice to keep something on there, to write something on there, or to put a little picture on or something. I don't know what. I just think it's nice. So thank you for joining me. I hope you give this a go. Oh, I know what I was going to do. So as I was talking, I was looking at those shapes there, and I was thinking, wouldn't it be interesting if instead of these kinds of patterns inside, what else could we do inside of them? So if I take a pen and I start working here, hopefully there's some ink in this pen. I also need my glasses on. Then if I draw some of these, well, there is ink in here. It's not the colour I expected, but it's fine. I don't mind having different colours on the same page. It makes life interesting. What can we do to fill these little shapes in? So I'm just taking a few of them. Because they're quite circular, but there's nothing to say they have to be circular. They could be random, sort of like geometric shapes with rounded corners. So we've got one that looks like it's got a hole in. One we did looks like it's got perhaps a hole with some lines coming off. I've also done one here that's got like little dots going around, which is quite nice. I'll zoom in because I can tell on my screen that you're not going to see this easily. Okay, what else can we do? Well, we could have shape like that, two Ds opposite each other. We could have perhaps two circles in there. If it's big enough, we could put three in there as if they're holes, or we could put some in as if they are sticking up. The difference is the holes, we're putting the shadows inside the circle to the top and the right. On these ones, we're keeping the circle nice and rounded where it's empty, but we're thickening the left and the bottom as if the light's coming this direction. So adding shadow and colours in an interesting way would work. So there are other things we can do. We could add a nice little spiral, like so. We could add a really weeny spiral, like so. I like a little spiral inside things. We could add something like that, so it looks like it could be quite circular as well, like it's a proper bead, I suppose, or berry. We could add an S inside and then perhaps two lines going like that. It creates this lovely sort of like, almost like the two shapes are hand, you know, sort of like clasped around each other, like clasping hands. We could just put a little star in the middle, or a bigger star in the middle. We can put stars in. We can also put little hearts in. You can also do one of my favourite things, which is to put a little seed inside, or make it look like a little eye. We could turn it into a proper seed pod, like so, I suppose. That could get confusing though. I think it's best to keep to things that are quite simple, but if you're just going to do a chain of them that are quite large, then that would work quite nicely. And of course you can double border them, perhaps have something in the middle. What other? And have triangle shapes. Have square-ish shapes. That's not a very good square. I'll do one up here. nearly off the screen. The sides of my squares bend outwards like the circle, like that, so a bit like a Chinese coin. What else could we do? Or you could just put some shadow lines like that in to give that feeling that we've got a lot of shadow on that side. And do shadow lines in another way, which is to have them curling around and some dots there as well, perhaps just to bring out a highlight. Trying to think what else. Okay, go over here. Look at this. Filling it up with ideas now, aren't I? What about having a little leaf curled around it? Or a little leaf with a seed in it, curled round a leaf, a leaf curled round the seed. So that would look nice. You could start in the middle and put a little flower in there. It's 4 petals. Could do just 3. I think you could get 5 in there, but then it would end up looking like a star almost. But you could. Depends on the size of your space. We could turn them into crazily striped seeds as well, which would be interesting when you put them side by side, because you know you're going to. I think you would be better off having you've got them side by side like this. Instead of having these all going the same direction, it might be a good idea to have them going in different directions. And try not to get 2 areas of black side by side, because then you lose the shapes. It's just a bit forethought and planning. Or you could have some of those, you could mix and match them. I'm trying to think, is there anything else? I think I've covered just about everything I can think of. If you come up with any more, brilliant. Use them. Try them out, see what happens, and see if you have a look. Just see if you can create something that's a bit like this. I'm just going to put a pen on here just to hold it down. Photo, you know, got a photo. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope this has given you some ideas of things to try. Don't forget, you don't have to put lots of them together. You don't have to make some as small as I have. You just work with the shape you want and see what happens. This one, I put a spike on the top, which would be fun. I just didn't leave enough room for a nice tall thin one like that, but it could be fun to do. And so many other things you can do to embellish. So, thank you for joining me. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to have some of these papers available for you to print and draw on. Just something I thought and thinking about for a long time, because I do like making coloured papers and I do dislike using them as well, because I forget to scan them. And I want to pile scans so that I've got access to them. And who knows, in the future you might get things that are collaged and goodness knows what you can use for drawing on. I don't mind doing the mess. How about that? It's a pretty mess, and I'm very controlled about how much mess I make as well. Anyway, I'm wittering on. Thank you so much. Hopefully I'll see you again in a day or 2. If not, please bear with me, because things are still up and down with me, and hopefully we're going to get to the bottom. I've got what a pun. Getting to the bottom of things with my digestive system. That's just so bad. And I'm just, yeah, sorry, I just found that amusing. And I'll be more on an even keel going forward, hopefully. And that's what I'm aiming for. So until then, take care and be creative. Bye for now. Bye all. Bye.